Call this meeting of the Siloam Springs Planning Commission for Tuesday, January 14th, 2025 to order. Roll call, please.
T. Williams.
Here.
Sally.
Here.
McKinney.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Sutton.
Here.
Renard.
Here.
K. Williams.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Commissioners, everyone's received a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions or changes? Being none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, being the first meeting of the new year, we do need to do election of the officers. First, I'll open the floor to nominations for chairman.
I nominate Kevin Williams.
Second.
Any other nominations? Roll call?
Sally.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
Renard.
Yes.
K. Williams.
Yes.
T.
Yes.
Williams. T. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess that makes me chairman.
Appropriate you moved up from
Thank
vice
you.
chair.
So next, nominations for vice chair.
Chairman, I would nominate Katie Renard.
Second.
Being no other nominations, roll call, please.
McKinney.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
Renard.
Yes.
K. Williams.
Yes.
T. Williams.
Yes.
Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Renard, congratulations. And final is secretary, open nominations for secretary.
I nominate Chris Sally.
Second.
Being no other nominations, nominations for Chris Sally, roll call, please.
McKinney.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
Renard.
Yes.
K. Williams.
Yes.
T. Williams.
Yes.
Sally.
Yes.
Congratulations, Chris. So that takes us to the PDRC committee. Being that I am now chairman, I can no longer be on the PDRC committee. So we will need another person on that to have three. Right now, it is Chris, Sally, and Katie Renard. As chairman, it's my responsibility to designate someone to take that third position. Is there anyone that is interested in doing that or willing to do that? Isaac?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else interested or good with Isaac? Okay, as my first official act as chairman,
Appoint him, yeah.
I'll appoint Isaac as a member of the PDRC. And for the chairperson of that, Ben, do we have to,
There needs to be a new chair appointed, yes, for PDRC.
okay, because we haven't technically had a chair yet.
Chris Sally was the chair.
Oh, so a new one for the year?
Correct.
Okay. And that's an appointment also?
I believe so, yes.
You guys want to fight it out?
Why doesn't he just stay on? We just had one meeting, so
Yeah,
he was
that's
just
true.
barely
Are
practiced.
you okay with continuing as chairman?
Sure.
I think we could work with him again, really.
I think you probably get along just fine. Okay, so we will appoint Chris as chairman of the PDRC. I believe that is all the offices, officers, and elections. Next up are development permit approvals. First on the list, significant development permit SD 2410, and that is Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Megan Thomas, Planner 2. This is a significant development request located at the 2200 block of Highway 16. The applicant is requesting to construct the Siloam Community Gardens multifamily dwelling complex consisting of 152 dwelling units with associated amenities situated on 20.57 acres. This request is associated with an easement vacation request that is anticipated to be heard at the February 18th Board of Directors meeting. This is the site plan for the development. The proposal is consistent with the PD zoning standards and concept plan that was approved in August of 2024. As you can see, this proposal includes the street extension of Corder Road to Waukesha Road as previously discussed with that PD rezoning. Sidewalks will be provided along both Highway 16 and Corder Road, as well as interior to the development to allow for better pedestrian mobility. And this is the landscape plan for the development. The applicant is providing sufficient parking throughout the complex with guest parking spaces provided. The proposal also includes amenities such as a walking trail, which loops around the overall development boundaries, as well as a playground area and a clubhouse, as well as community garden areas, which will serve the future residents of the development. Additionally, the applicant is also providing sufficient landscaping throughout the development. As you can see on this plan, a 10-foot landscape buffer is provided along all property boundaries, as well as trees and shrubs. Staff has received one call of questioning nature and one letter from a neighbor on the request, and after staff review, staff finds that the proposed significant development as presented appears to meet all requirements set forth and subject to the conditions stated in the staff report provided. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is there anyone in the public has any comments on SD 2410? Commissioners, questions or comments? Being none, do I have a motion to accept SD 2410 or approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve SD 2410 with the stated conditions.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve significant development 2410. Roll call, please.
McKinney,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally.
Yes.
Significant development permit SD 2410 passes, and that will go before the board February 4th, 2025. Real quick, Mr. Sutton, can you make sure you're speaking into the mic when you vote? It's all being recorded, and it needs to be sure to pick up. Thank you. Next up, significant development permit SD 2416. Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a significant development request located at 3861 Highway 412 East. The applicant is requesting to construct a 5,161 square foot Chili's restaurant on Lot 1 of the Siloam Station Retail Edition. This is a site plan for the development. The proposal is consistent with the C2 zoning of the property. The applicant is proposing driveway access onto the private street, Siloam Station Drive, and will not have any access directly onto Highway 412. An access easement is provided to the west of the lot to allow for cross-access between the frontage developments of the subdivision. I actually think it's to the east of the lot. Sorry about that. The proposal is providing ample parking and meets all parking area design requirements. A sidewalk is proposed to be constructed along Highway 412 with a crosswalk shown to the south here to allow for better pedestrian mobility to the structure. Staff has not received any calls or correspondence on this request, and after review, staff finds that the proposed significant development as presented appears to meet all requirements as set forth, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report. And staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is there anyone in the public that has any questions or comments on SD 2416? Seeing none, commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve significant development permit SD 2416.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve SD 2416, significant development permit, subject to the condition listed.
We have a motion for significant development permit SD 2416 with conditions as listed. Do I have a second?
Second.
With the motion and a second, roll call, please.
Thomas,
Yes.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Significant development permit SD 2416 passes. That will go before the board February 4th, 2025. Next up, rezoning development permit RZ 2407. Ben, this looks like you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Ben Rhodes. I'm the senior planner and what you're considering is a rezoning ordinance at the 20,000 block of Bruce Rutherford Road. This is proposed to go to the PD plan development. And as the subcommittee is aware, PDRC met last month at the beginning, actually it was the end of the last planning commission to review this project. So this is the project that you guys looked at earlier. So the request is to rezone 51 acres roughly from R2 to PD. And this is to allow a mixed density housing development. The applicant is also seeking a future land use map amendment to address the single family attached development that's on the property. And that would be a request to switch from neighborhoods 1 to neighborhoods 2 on the future land use map. And you'll see that map in a second on the slide. I want to also make sure the commission is aware that the applicant is also seeking annexation of the area, and that will be going to the city board of directors at their next meeting. So here you see the site layout. This is a concept plan, so you're not looking at a preliminary plat. You're looking at what is in concept agreed to by the developer. And what you're seeing here is the different colors. There's 4 different use types. We have the traditional single-family development that's in the yellow. What you would basically have 1 unit per lot on that. And then the second is in the purplish shade there, and the slightly narrower lots are rear-loaded garage single-family. And so that's somewhat of a unique product here in Siloam Springs. We do have some examples here on College Street, but essentially what it is The garages are in the back of the residences, not along the front as you would normally would see in most single-family residential neighborhoods. And then the third use area is the single-family attached, which I mentioned earlier is what's triggering the need for the future land use map amendment. That's in the brown. And the best point of reference for that is the Lawless Ranch subdivision that you guys looked at, I believe, last year, where each unit is on their own lot, but there's a lot line that will run through the building. So there's basically a party wall between both units, resembling a duplex, but not exactly a duplex. They're somewhat of a different product because they are sold separately from each other. Both sides are different ownership. And then the third area is their open area green space. The alleys, as I mentioned, are in the rear of those lots that will be used for access for those garages. And the proposal also accounts for a needed street connection to tie into Highway 59 back south to Bruce Rutherford Road, in which we see that's the connection right here that will eventually tie into Highway 59. There is also a proposed connection up to Highway 412, which will allow for traffic to divert off into two locations. So we're not loading everything onto Bruce Rutherford or Kenwood, as it changes names there. And I know that's been a concern for past developments. This is going to give a little bit more balance to where traffic is coming in and out of this proposed subdivision. Parks will include walking paths and amenities for active recreations, which will include sports courts and things like that. We do have some images to show you in a second of what that will look like. As I mentioned, there will be a separate annexation ordinance. That ordinance will bring it in as R2, which is why this rezone is an R2 to a PD. It will be R2 briefly for about 2 weeks, and then it will be switched over to PD, assuming this ordinance moves forward. I mentioned the future land use map, and we are finding this is a supportive project of staff with the condition of the need to annex the property into the city. Here is just a showing of the future land use map. Those single-family attached units best fall within one of the two categories. They're either considered a townhome or duplex, but you can see either of those are not permitted or considered appropriate in the current view of the neighborhood 1. So the neighborhood 2 would allow for that unique product, I should say. We did ask the developer to provide some images of just kind of what this would look like. I do believe also one was provided at your desks moments before the meeting, so you can kind of see maybe a rendering of kind of what the neighborhood would look like. But essentially, these are the units that are going to have the rear load, alley load, so you don't see any garages on the fronts there, just the house with the walkway for the front door going to this front street. And then these are recreational amenities that were provided by the developer of just some options of what they're keeping in mind for the particular development. And with that, we have our staff findings, so available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Does anyone in the public have any questions or comments regarding the rezoning development permit RZ 2407? Yes, sir. Come forward, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Jim Caldwell, 609 South Oak Hill. Just an interested citizen. I have family that live on Keck Road, and I think it's a good use of the land, especially the park and the blended use. Makes a lot of sense. The question I had was about the collector street from the master street plan. It's shown to go straight through there, and four-way intersection there with Keck Road with the new school in the southeast corner, and I was just, again, concerned if that's going to be the eventual plan, that we'll have a 150-foot offset with all that school traffic years from now, and that was one concern. The other was, it looks like there's 18 single-family homes that will have drives onto that collector street, and I didn't know if that was something to consider or reconsider. There's a 20-foot dedication on the rear of those that the city already has dedicated from Grandview. Doesn't seem to be used, so maybe the developer could answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jesse Fulcher. I had the pleasure of sitting down with the PDRC a couple weeks ago. Sounded like it was the inaugural meeting, so I think we made the most of it.
Mr.
And-
Fulcher, can you state the address too?
Yes,
please,
of
for the
my
record?
personal address?
Personal or the business address?
Yeah, 4058 North College Avenue, Fayetteville.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So to answer the gentleman's questions, and then I'll maybe circle back around, we are showing a collector street, and I don't know if I can pull it up on here, Ben, but it is a street that's attempting to line up with Keck Road. It is considerably wider than the other interior streets.
Go back to where that is.
There we go. Here we go. So, yes, he'd mentioned there was 20 feet of right-of-way dedicated with this development, Grandview, which obviously isn't enough for a collector street. And I think the collective decision with staff was to put the entire collector street within our development and then get it lined up with the intersection of 59 and 412. So if we went up through these commercial properties, here would be the signalized intersection of 59 and 412 right up in here. So we've got that lined up with there. When the school, assuming the school builds down here or another property redevelops, we'll probably just have to look at how Keck Road ties into that, because there just wasn't a good way to align them. And so this is kind of the plan that we went with based on some direction from staff. But there is a collector road shown through there. In terms of driveways accessing the collector street, I think the question there is somewhat of a, what's the function of the collector street? Is it a high-speed roadway to connect 2 points through a neighborhood? Hopefully not, in which case driveways onto a collector street shouldn't be a safety issue if you're keeping the speeds at a neighborhood rate and not a speedway rate. So I think that's something that can be managed. That's kind of the challenges with putting a collector roadway through a neighborhood is how do you best design it and build it so that it doesn't become a speedway where you then have calls to the police department asking for speed tables to be put in because residents are complaining about it. So that's something we'll have to look at in the design process. Hopefully with some of the horizontal curvature in the roadway that we've shown here, that tends to reduce traffic speeds, so hopefully that will help. We could also look at stop signs at our intersections as well. So I don't think the driveways will be an issue as long as the motorists utilizing this connection are doing so safely. In terms of the development itself, we've been working with staff for several months now to get to this point. We've gone through several iterations, including where our collector street should be located. One of the things they said that was going to be important because of the growth along Kenwood was to get a connection out to Highway 412. We have that property under contract. It was part of the western portion of property, so when we contracted that, we contracted both, so we'll be able to provide a straight connection out to 412, which obviously will benefit our residents, but the folks in the neighborhood to the west of us obviously have a direct connection north out of their subdivision, so they're going to cut a lot of time off their commute by being able to directly connect out to Highway 412 versus going east or west on Bruce Rutherford or Kenwood. And then ultimately, other residents, and then one day when the school's built, folks that are already along Kenwood and Bruce Rutherford will have another route to get out to 412 or to get from 412 back to their home. Really, the layout with the subdivision was to respect the land uses around us. To the north of us is high-intensity commercial, so that's why we chose to put townhouses in that area, tried to put something slightly denser as a transition from commercial uses into our single-family areas. We also did that on the west side as well. That's an existing duplex subdivision to the west of us. So from a compatibility standpoint and transitioning standpoint, I think we've done a really good job of respecting the properties around us. And then everything else as you move throughout the subdivision is single-family detached homes. It's just a matter of is the garage on the front or is the garage on the rear. And then the green space ultimately drove the design and layout and what we could do with the property itself. There's a wetland area kind of at our southwest corner there. There's an existing water structure there, pond structure. And then from there on to the northwest, it appears to be a jurisdictional waterway. So we've just designed around that, built our park on either side of it, and then put our walking trails through there. So it made it somewhat of an easy design, and then we just kind of filled in our housing and streets and connections around that. So it's a great opportunity for, again, active recreation. We'll have walking trails throughout that main green space with a connection across. You can see the green, I could point at it with the mouse here, this green area here. So you'll be allowed a pedestrian connection so you can get from the east side of the neighborhood back over to the park areas very easily. With that, appears to be a great development. Had to utilize the PD zoning option because we were building some smaller lots and because we were doing some attached units here in the northwest corner. It just makes a lot more sense to be able to request a zoning that the Planning Commission and Board of Directors can actually see what we're proposing versus a standard rezoning, which would have gotten much more complicated. So this kind of puts everything in front of everyone. I hope you appreciate that, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There anyone else has any questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address. I have 3 minutes.
All right, Keith Berry. I live at 20624 Remsen Court here in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I am just south of these units off of Keck Road. And a lot of development that is starting to pop up in that area has brought a lot of concern about access. We are seeing an increase in, all types of traffic. I mean, we've got pedestrian traffic on the roadways. We've got bicycles on the roadways. It's good to see some of these cut-throughs that are coming online. I appreciate that very much. And I guess my concern is that as we continue to look at Highway 16 and Kenwood, Keck, all of that, do we have a plan in place as we continue to move forward with introducing these things to put the proper roadways, pedestrian walkways, to make it safe? I travel that road, every day, constantly. And the traffic buildup we're starting to see in some areas along Bruce Rutherford, Gum Springs. Sometimes I don't even want to go back to Highway 16 because it's getting ridiculous down that side. And my wife has actually been T-boned at that intersection right there, and that's cause for concern. Talked to our local police department. It is one of the highest impact areas of wrecks in Siloam Springs. So we have been trying to get a light in that location now for quite a while. We've talked to Don, we've talked with others trying to get something to happen there, but we continue to build, but we're not doing anything about the infrastructure. So I think it's very important that we do take a look at the infrastructure. Besides the building process, we need to know what the future is on that. My other question is, and I look at this new subdivision, my question is this going to be something like we see over in Harbor Meadows? Really good. I've done a lot of work with Lowe's, of course it's who I work with, so we do a lot of construction in these areas. I look at something like this, I think it's great. I think it's a good addition to our community. But what I'd like to know is if this is kind of along the lines of a Harbor Meadows, where we've got a multiple use facility there, and just kind of leave it at that. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, sir. Kevin, can you address Kenwood just a little bit real quick? I know we had that one meeting. There are some plans. What's the schedule like on that? And secondly, I know that in those plans, four-way Kenwood and 16 become a four-way stop. Is there any possibility of that happening sooner than the road being done?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Moore, Public Works. You're correct. So we have under contract with Garver the design for that street. We had a public meeting back in November with where landowners came and left some of the comments. So the majority of the comments for that street as a whole was actually surrounding the Kenwood and Highway 16 intersection. So what they're proposing is a four-way stop, and we have requested if RDOT would consider that separately from the street project itself. And then once the school is constructed, the study shows that it would justify a light, it would justify a signal at Highway 16 and Kenwood. Thank you. So it would justify a signal at Highway 16 and Kenwood once that school is built. Part of that project is the full collector width with turn lane down the middle and then a side path for pedestrians on the north side at 10 feet wide to accommodate the pedestrians that are currently in the roadway in that area. And then the connection provided by this subdivision and one of the subdivisions to the west, Spring Hills, will help relieve a lot of that traffic as well.
Thanks. Okay, are there any other comments from the public?
Hi, I'm Faith Berry, 20624 Remsen Court. We live south of there. The road that this development is going to feed out to down here, our concern is originally, when you looked at the planning maps, there were 3 roads that were going to go from here up to 412. Still, nothing has happened. None of those have been put through. But further to the west there is the subsidized housing or the lower income housing there. And they do have a road that goes all the way through up by the sale barn, but the road is so narrow that the cars park on the road here, and 2 cars cannot pass on that street. So it's very difficult, and I go very slow through there. I'm scared to death to hit the kids. There are a lot of kids playing on the sidewalk and in that road. So if this road is just as narrow as the one that's a little further down, they really are not connector roads. And so for many years, we're all still going to be going down there, and if it's a 4-way stop, that's fine. It'll slow the traffic down. That's 50 to 60 miles per hour out there on that road. But we're going to be backing up there because we really can't safely cut through up to 412. And so we were wondering about the other roads that were proposed, because there was supposed to be one here that took us up to the intersection of 59 and connect there. But this, sorry, I'm really hoarse today. This one is not very wide unless you really can park cars on either side and have 2-way traffic going. And if you have all the school traffic that's also going through there, that's going to be so dangerous, or we're all going to be backed up
Ms. Berry,
on that road.
can you make sure you're speaking into the mic?
Okay, so we're going to be backed up on that road perpetually down there at a 4-way stop, which eventually will be maybe a light, but still very backed up with the traffic from all the developments going in right there. So that's our concern, are those cut-through streets. But the development itself looks awesome. We liked it, so our concern are those cut-through roads.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will mention the concerns from the subdivision to the west of this. That is not a collector street. That's just a minor local street. That's narrower than what they're proposing here for that main north-south street. That widest street that runs north and south on the west of this subdivision would line up with Highway 59, and then the street that they're actually completing to 412 would be narrower, but with no on-street parking since there's not residences on that street. Then also Timothy Street and Simon Sager Avenue in the Spring Hills subdivision to the west of this, those are going to be coming through as well. So Spring Hills has a Simon Sager Avenue that'll line up by Jiffy Lube, I believe it is, there. And again, no on-street parking there since it's a collector street. And then Timothy Street would come through and connect to that so that you wouldn't have to go through the Ridgestone subdivision to get to Timothy and then to 412.
How far out are those from being put in?
The Spring Hill subdivision has been approved, but they've not started construction yet.
Very good. Any other comments? If not, commissioners, any questions or comments? This is, just a reminder, a rezoning request, so we're not talking details of the plan, but rezoning for the PD.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say that we did hear from the developer in the meeting that we had earlier about the other developments he has in other communities, in Fayetteville and where else?
In Springdale.
In Springdale. And they're doing very well. And so I thought maybe if it would be any comfort to those who've spoken from the public to know that the traffic is flowing well there and that everything is working out just fine. We don't perceive a problem here because you have experience with this type of development in other communities working, correct?
Yes, ma'am. To the, neighbors' comments, it's common. I'm sure y'all are used to it, regardless of what community you call home in Northwest Arkansas. We all have lots of traffic problems, and I know adding homes adds to traffic, but we also need homes because of all the people moving in. So we're all constantly stuck in this dilemma. But yeah, it's really to the neighbors' points about these other connections. We need more than one connection. Our one connection is not going to fix everything. It's multiple connections through neighborhoods and planning for those. That's what's going to help alleviate the traffic, as well as Kevin's comments about Highway 16 and that intersection with Kenwood and future widenings. Those are the things that are going to truly help out the existing traffic issues that we're all seeing out here. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Just a question, the agent's listed as Roush Coleman. I know there was a sale. Does it still need to be Roush Coleman, or do we need to amend that?
I'm not even 100% sure. Yeah, we're in process of that taking place. It hasn't closed, so it technically is. I can probably just take it off and just say it's me. Yeah, it's in flux because it's not closed yet.
Just a housekeeping item. I didn't
Yeah.
want anybody to get some unintended consequence and get stuck with something.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding rezoning development permit RZ 2407.
Move approval, RZ 2407, with staff stated condition.
Have a motion for approval of RZ 2407. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Rezone development permit RZ 2407 passes. This will go to the board on February 18th, 2025. Next up, rezone development permit RZ 2408, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission. Ben Rhodes again. We are looking at another rezoning, a different quarter of town. We're north of town now. This is at 400 block of Meadow Court, which is roughly about a mile or so north of here. The proposal is to rezone the property that's shown in the map there on the left from A1 to R4. That's residential multifamily. The applicant requests to rezone its 2.18 acres from A1 to R4, and this is to allow for several two-story quadplexes similar to the existing development that's to the west of that site. Future land use map amendment is also needed for this one to allow for that multifamily. And here I like to believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it can kind of give you really the context of what this area looks like. So The picture up on the top left is the site. And as it says in the bullet there, it's currently an open field. We don't believe it's been used as agricultural use, although it might have been for ranching land or at some point. On the bottom right, you see this is if you were looking at the site and then you just turned left 90 degrees, 90 degrees. You'll see this image here. You see existing apartment, multifamily on the left there with the rear of a single-family home with a fence on the left. You have I didn't put the picture on the other side, but it's somewhat of a similar situation where there's a single family that are backing up on the sides of this lot. And then if you were to turn around completely 180 degrees, you would see the picture on the bottom left. It essentially is this a parking lot to the existing multifamily. And this is the only way in and out of this property is through the multifamily. The applicant has indicated his intent to construct these two-story quadplexes on the property with the design that will have no windows facing towards the existing homes for privacy purposes. We can look into that more when it comes through as a significant development. I know we have done the Leland Cypress as a live screen to help block some of the verticality of the units as proposed. As I mentioned, the access to the site is only through the existing apartment complex. Proposed land use will be consistent with the existing Benton Ridge subdivision. Meadow Court is Benton Ridge, just so if you were curious. And as I mentioned, they need to have a future land use map. Here is that map amendment. You can see the whole area here is neighborhoods 1. And I would note that the consultants, they did a really good job on our plan. I don't want to say anything negative about them at all, but when they looked at this, they did a very broad brush. They weren't looking at individual parcels as to the land use and then saying, okay, this one should be neighborhoods 3, this one should be, it looked at general areas, like quarters of town, if you will. So that's kind of what you see here, this big yellow. You see, obviously, you have First Baptist Church there in the yellow, as well as the entire multifamily to the west of the site. So all that's to say is that there can be care taken in certain circumstances to look at the individual context of an area to come up with maybe an exceptions to the future land use map to address the conditions on the ground. And with that, we are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Yes, ma'am. Come to the mic and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Angela Santizo, 415 Cherry Willow Drive. We are neighbors, new neighbors to this land. I just have a question. In the future, if they build the same duplex that already are, we would like know if in the future we will have any restriction in our property or not. Like if they build the same duplex are in the back of our property. Right. In the future, we will have any restriction to our land, or everything will be the same, like it's now?
Nothing changes with their property, right, Ben?
That's correct. This is just the applicant's property that's being changed. Nothing will change with your property at all.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the public have any questions or comments? If not, commissioners, any questions or comments regarding RZ 2408? If not, I'll entertain a motion regarding RZ 2408.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve RZ 2408 as stated.
Okay, I have a motion for RZ development permit to approve RZ 2408. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Renard,
Yes.
Kay Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
Rezoning development permit RZ 2408 passes. This will go before the board February 4th, 2025. Next up is rezoning development permit RZ 2409. Ben.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission. We are very close to the previous project, but perhaps we would say a block north. This is off of East Copperleaf Drive. The addresses in question are 339 and 349 East Copperleaf. The proposal is to rezone from R2 residential single family to R3 duplex. The applicant did provide a survey. As you can see in the bottom left, there are two lots there, lots 5 and 6, that were split off a few years ago to create the two different lots in question. Those add up to 0.614 acres. That would be from, essentially be duplex lots for either those two lots, which would allow for 2 or 4 units total. You see on the right-hand side the image of where these lots are in location to the rest of the neighborhood. So the rezone from R2 to R3 is here shown at the bottom picture. At the very end of that street is roughly where those lots are going to be located, where I circled. So the site's currently a wooded area. As I mentioned, it was previously platted as 2 lots under the R2 zone. There is existing single-family housing across the street as well as behind. Unlike the previous rezoning review, this site will be highly visible within the existing single-family neighborhood. Two-family uses are typically contained within their own street or own area and not really intermixed within a single-family development. You do see that in this case, there's a street just over to the west called Wooddale Court that has only 2-family, but it is all contained on its own street, and there isn't really single families that are facing it or fronting towards those units. With the other ones, this one also requires a future land use map amendment needed, going from neighborhoods 1 to neighborhoods 2. The neighborhoods 1 does not support duplex housing, and we in this case are not in favor of actually changing the map in this location. The zoning requests, we've thrown out the term spot zoning. This one, really just to get you educated as to what spot zoning is, essentially is when you put in a new zone district that's unique to the whole area around it. So if you had like a line of single-family homes along a street, and then there's a vacant lot, and then you rezone that one lot to a higher zoning like R3 or something to that effect, and then everything else continues as single-family, that essentially is like it sounds, you're putting a spot on the map as to where that one zone would go. So the other thing, allowing 2-family in this location may usher additional units along East Copperleaf through later rezoning requests. Here's some additional pictures just to give you kind of the feel of the area if you've not been out there. The top right picture is on Copperleaf, and you're looking to the east, and you see the single-family homes pretty much all throughout there. And then there is a single-family home actually that's under construction in the middle image there that is located directly behind the lots in question. And then the bottom image just shows Copperleaf again, but looking the opposite direction, going towards the west. And you do see the sides of the two existing two families that aren't fronting or near any other single family. They're basically just the sides along that street, and then you have the next cul-de-sac where for the actual single family. So it's kind of acting as somewhat of a buffer between the single family and the commercial out along Highway 43. Let's see, I believe I already mentioned the last bullet there. So staff is essentially making a suggestion to consider this, not saying one way or the other what to do with it, but just to consider the request. And we do not have any recommended conditions. One last moment on this, is again the future land use map, and you can see this is what we saw from the previous rezoning case where the whole area is zoned for the neighborhood 1. And with that, we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
Yes, Jim Caldwell, 609 South Oak Hill, representing Scott Mayberry. He unfortunately broke his heel about a week or two ago and is still not able to walk very well. So he regrets not being able to be here tonight. So I'll do my best to represent him on this rezone request. As you see, this land use map area yellow there encompasses about 1,000 acres, all this north part of town. And it's currently use designated neighborhood 1 only. And the last two things you just voted on were use area 1 that we had to do a map amendment. And I would propose, and I know that developer that owns several of the 40-acre tracts within this, did Endura Park. I would wager that any future use development in these areas is going to have to update this map because there'll be blended use, very similar to what we just saw with Winding Springs, for instance. So yes, there's only 2 lots here we're trying to get rezoned for duplex. There's over 320 duplexes in this neighborhood 1 currently. Now, the staff is correct. There was an error in the letter requesting the use change. Those plats were approved prior to the 2022 comprehensive plan. So staff is correct in that. The challenge is, though, staff still went ahead and approved this 1,000-acre area of yellow without looking at the areas that were existing duplexes. In fact, the duplexes catty corner across the street are actually zoned R4 multifamily, even above duplex. So I think it's fairly consistent with the area. It's only 2 lots. The other concern that was outlined by the staff was that, and even mentioned recent in the report just now, you don't drive through duplex area and residential areas at the same time on the same street, and yet the board just approved, again, the Winding Springs subdivision just 2 votes ago, and that has 20-some duplexes on the same road as single-family homes. So it doesn't seem to be that much of an impact. It's good for the previous Winding, let me get the name right, Winding Springs that we just approved 2 votes ago. We've got 72 duplex units, and there's also single-family homes on that same street. So I think Scott's going to do a nice job here. There won't be any adverse effect to the community in this area. And I believe, again, Scott believes that future development in this 1,000 acres will be very similar to that. You'll have blended use like the projects we've already seen. So I'd be glad to answer any questions, too, on Scott's behalf.
Okay, let me see if there's any more comments from the public. And then we'll move to the commissioners. Do we have any more questions or comments from the public? If not, commissioners, questions or comments regarding RZ 2409?
My question/comment. To me, it feels like spot zoning would be kind of an infill for things that are maybe mostly developed around. I could be wrong about that, but it just feels weird going in here and spot zoning in the middle of this hugely yellow area. It almost kind of feels like a rug pull to the people that are already built there. Can you address just those questions about specifically this area and why the city feels really they don't want to change the map in light of potential future development there?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner, Mr. Chairman. To me, it's all about neighborhood context. It may look like we're being inconsistent, picking winners and losers. Why do we like this one and not that one? And it really goes with what fits in to particular areas. So just looking at the previous case, you might say, well, you're being unfair because you recommend, or you were okay for the previous rezoning and not this. Well, that one, you can only access it through multifamily. So it was logical extension. You wouldn't want to put a single family house at the end of those apartment complex units, and that was the only way in and out without any street frontage or anything to that. So logically, from a development standpoint, it just made sense to extend that existing land use. In this situation, what concerned me in particular was the street terminus. So everyone on that cul-de-sac coming out would look at these the duplexes, and there's nothing wrong with duplexes, but you generally just don't want them mixed in with a single family development. You have them cordoned off, you have them, and it would be equally inappropriate if you wanted to build a single family house on Wooddale Court with all the other duplexes around it. So it's not to disfavor or disadvantage the duplex use in general. It's all about location, location, location. Where do you want them to be located? And that was really our concern with this. So.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I was thinking about is the way that development was built. It was built with streets that were cul-de-sacs. They put all the duplexes together and then the single-family houses behind it. It's been well-maintained. Property there has held its value and even increased in value. But to set just two duplexes out on the other side of that street there, to me, is something that is detrimental to the way that the property has been maintained and used. I think Copperleaf has been developed, 15, 20 years? Yeah, by now. And it has been really consistent with the duplexes in the front and then the other houses in the back. And just setting this off is different than in a new development where nothing's built and you can plan for it. This is very different to me in just looking at these two lots. And does this gentleman own all the rest of that land along that strip? Is it the same property owner, or does he just own these two? Or do you know?
I believe he just owns just the two.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anyone else? Well, for me, I know the comparison was brought up to Winding Springs, but the Winding Springs duplexes, or townhouses, however we're referring to them, they do back up to other duplexes. They are in the same area with other duplexes or back up to commercial property. And it is like a area of duplexes, and then there's areas of single-family homes. So that is all planned out ahead of time. This coming out from the single-family homes, I do think it just would look odd to see two duplexes sitting there with nothing else around it. I do understand there's one street of duplexes, but they are secluded into themselves and act like a buffer between Mount Olive and Don Hill to where you have the single home residence back there in a nice neighborhood, and it's been kept up well. So I do feel like this is a little bit odd and out of place to have duplexes there. Are there any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
Ben, is that 3 other duplexes on the other side of the street that I see that exist?
The other duplexes, to my knowledge, are on Wooddale Court, which is the cul-de-sac to the, if I can go up, I can show you on the map where they're located. Let me just circle them real fast. So.
Ben, he was looking at the next project.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one right here.
He was looking at the HYCO
So
project.
you don't need me to show, okay.
I'm like, I've never heard of it.
I'll just show it just for the sake of, because I'm up here anyway. This is the location of where all the duplexes are located.
Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding RZ 2409.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with what you said and what Katie said. You know, I know we just voted to rezone not very far from that, but like we said, that's an entire street of quadplexes and then multifamily apartments. And this feels different to me. I don't think that duplexes there are the same. I don't think that it will fit the neighborhood. And because of that, I make a motion to deny rezoning development permit RZ 2409.
Jay, is that how we would do that? A motion to deny, and then a yes would be denial?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Jay Williams, city attorney, that's correct.
Okay. So there's been a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, just to be clear, a yes vote is to deny the rezoning permit. Roll call, please.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
No.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
So rezoning development permit RZ 2409 fails on a motion to deny passing. So that will not go to the board, right?
It still goes to the
It
board.
still goes
Yep.
to the board? Okay, so that will go to the board on February 4th, 2025. Next up, rezoning development permit RZ 2410, Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Megan Thomas, Planner 2. This is a rezoning request located at the 1300 block of North Britt Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone the proposed Lot 6R and Lot 7 of the James West Kelchner subdivision, consisting of a total of 0.47 acres from R2 residential medium to R3 residential two-family. In addition, the applicant is also requesting to rezone the proposed Lot 5R, consisting of 0.32 acres from R2 residential medium to R4 residential multifamily. The future land use map for the properties describes it as neighborhoods 2. The neighborhoods 2 designation describes duplex and triplex uses as very appropriate for the area. This is the associated lot line adjustment survey for the property. The applicant is proposing to rezone the 2 southern lots, that's these 2 lots right here, to R3 to allow for 2 duplex structures, so that's 1 duplex per lot there. And then they are requesting to rezone the northern lot 5R here to R4 to allow for one triplex unit to be constructed on that lot. As previously stated, the proposal is consistent with the neighborhood's 2 future land use designation for the property, and there are similar uses existing within the neighborhood, both to the east and south of the site. To the east, we have an existing duplex subdivision, and a little further south, we have an existing apartment complex. It's about 3 lots down from it. It should be noted, opaque screening will be required along the west property boundary. That's this property boundary here for the R4 zoning, and that's to accommodate for the only existing single-family residential that's abutting that lot. There are no other existing single-family residentials currently abutting this site. There's a single-family over here to the east, and that's the only other single-family, but that is separated by North Britt Street. Staff has received 1 call of questioning nature on this request and no correspondence. After review, staff finds that the proposed zoning to R3 and R4 is consistent with the future land use designation for the property and is compatible with the existing neighborhood context and character. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any comments or questions from the public?
Jim Caldwell, 609 South Oak Hill, representing Scott. I think it's self-explanatory and appreciate the staff support. Recommendation to approve this, so I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. Thanks.
Great, thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from the public? If not, commissioners, comments or questions regarding this one? If not, I will entertain a motion regarding RZ 2410.
I'd make a motion to approve RZ 2410.
I'll second.
Have a motion, a second for RZ 2410. Roll call, please.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams.
Yes. Rezoning development permit RZ 2410 passes. This will go to the board February 4th, 2025. Next up, board and staff approval permits. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 3 items that are set to go to the January 21st Board of Directors meeting. These are items that you guys do not see, but we just inform you of. So we have the easement vacation that's associated with the Siloam Community Gardens project that you guys approved tonight. We also have setting a hearing, well, that's setting the hearing date for that easement vacation. And then we have another easement vacation for the property that you just approved a rezoning for. They are vacating those easements as they reconfigure those lots. And then we have the annexation request for the Winding Springs request that you guys just heard earlier as well. In addition, we also have staff announcements. So just an announcement, the February 11th Board of Adjustments meeting will be canceled. We did not receive any items for that agenda, so it will be canceled. And also the January 14th, that's today's, PDRC meeting is canceled as well, as we do not have any items for that agenda. That's all I have.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on the board and staff approved permits? We don't have to vote on those, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, no questions. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
One thing before we adjourn, isn't there a workshop on Winding Springs before the next board meeting? Am I mistaken?
I do believe there is a workshop. Stay tuned on the exact date. That has not been announced yet.
It would be good to let all of the planning commissioners know about that too, especially our new folks who are just coming on board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make sure the administrator announces it.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.